Good evening, my name is Kacper Paradowski and you're watching Poland Daily News. The solemn and dignified ceremony of the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau German concentration camp was attended today by official delegations from more than 60 countries and international organizations. More than 200 Auschwitz survivors were also present.
Jako pierwszy przemawiał prezydent Andrzej Duda.
The first speaker was Polish President Andrzej Duda. He started by quoting an excerpt from Tadeusz Borowski's diary of his days in Auschwitz. The president also reminded everyone present that Poland was the state to fall victim to Nazi Germany. Therefore, it is Poland's right and duty to make sure the world will never forget the atrocities of the Second World War and never forgets the Holocaust. As we mark the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, we must deliver the truth about this concentration camp to the world, the death and suffering it brought to the people of Europe. This was presented today by survivors of the camp, of whom more than 200 were present for the ceremony. 4 of them gave a moving testimony, frequently paused by emotions. One of the survivors focused on what he called the 11th commandment, which is indifference. He appealed to world leaders and everybody gathered at the ceremony to make sure that the world does not display indifference again. He pointed out the fact that world leaders at the time did not believe the reports coming in about those terrible atrocities. The indifference was like a concession of the crimes to be continued. Historians estimate that at least 1.3 million people were sent to Auschwitz between 1940 and 1945. About 1.1 million of them were killed in the camp, including 960,000 Jews, a majority of which were Polish citizens, and 74,000 Christian Poles.
Pojednanie oparte na pamięci.
Polish President Andrzej Duda was the host of today's commemoration ceremony, but all eyes were on the survivors. 4 of them took to the stage to share their testimonies of the atrocities committed in the camp by Nazi Germany. Let it be our shared commitment before the last surviving witnesses to pass on the lesson and warning for all of mankind which comes from this place. Falsifying the history of the Second World War, denying crimes of genocide, negating the Holocaust and using the tragedy of Auschwitz for any type of agenda is nothing else than a profanation of the memory of the victims whose ashes lie here. The truth about the Holocaust cannot die. The memory of Auschwitz must be preserved so that genocides will never happen again. Once more, I give my thanks to you, the honorable survivors, for your testimonies and your presence here today. Eternal remembrance to all the victims of Auschwitz, eternal remembrance to the victims of the Holocaust.
Żeby zagłada nigdy więcej w historii świata się nie powtórzyła.
I could not recognize myself. I raised my hands to see my reflection in the windows of the block, and only then I knew it was me. It's hard to say what caused me more pain in the beginning, the number tattooed on my arm or losing my hair. I think it was the latter. My hair is what made me feel like a woman, braids tied into a crown on my head. They were soft and pleasant to touch. They were mine, but my crown was taken away from me by the criminals' hands, and I was transformed into a different, pitiful-looking creature. I touched my bald head with my hand. I stood before a window and saw the reflection of my face. Was it still me, or someone else?
Warkocze uczesane w koronę na głowie.
Let me express my deepest respect as a veteran to all those whom destiny saved from the industrial action of the Nazi German killing machine in Auschwitz and other concentration and death camps. It's a very drastic and tragically truthful sentence. The truth is told by the countless amounts of human hair, reading glasses, dentures, shoes, clothes and other everyday objects used by children, women and men of various nations and religions, which lie here. Vera Jourova, who is responsible for rule of law issues in the new European Commission, is visiting Poland. She plans to meet with some of Poland's most senior politicians and judges tomorrow to discuss the Polish judicial reform. More on the visit of Commissioner Jourova to Poland from the Parliament Aleksandra Zarzycka.
Wiceprzewodnicząca Komisji Europejskiej.
European Commission Vice President Věra Jourová, Commissioner for the Rule of Law, appeared today at the ceremony in Auschwitz. Tomorrow she is expected to come to Warsaw, where she will hold a series of meetings, starting at 9 a.m. with Speaker of the Sejm Elżbieta Witek. Then she will have a meeting with the Speaker of the Senate, Tomasz Grodzki. Her plan also includes a conversation with the Minister of Justice, Zbigniew Ziobro, Deputy Head of her Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Paweł Jabłoński, the First President of the Supreme Court, Małgorzata Gersdorf, as well as with the Polish Ombudsman, Adam Bodnar. The EU Commissioner is also to hold a meeting with the President of the Constitutional Tribunal, Julia Przyłębska. It is unofficially said that the National Council of the Judiciary, as well as the Disciplinary Chamber, also sought an interview with Commissioner Jourová. However, these requests were rejected. The reasoning behind that, as the media speculate, is that the European Union does not want to legitimize those bodies which have been put into question by the Supreme Court. As Gazeta Wyborcza daily reports, the selection of interlocutors is not accidental. They are supposed to represent various parties in the court dispute so as to avoid charges of bias, which were previously directed against Jourová's predecessor, Franz Timmermans, who would only meet with the Polish opposition. The media also unofficially state that the EU Commissioner is to press or appeal to President Duda not to put his signature to the law disciplining judges. If he signs, the European Commission is to immediately initiate a procedure of investigation into a potential violation of EU laws, which may result in the filing of a lawsuit to the European Court of Justice. President Duda has not yet signed the bill in question, but according to the Constitution, he has 21 days to do so. Today, however, he has decided to address a motion to the Constitutional Tribunal, asking it to investigate the rules under which the Supreme Court passed its resolution last week. A similar motion has already been submitted by Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki and the National Council of the Judiciary.
Już premier Mateusz Morawiecki i Krajowa Rada Sądownictwa.
The hopes of the Lega party leader, Matteo Salvini, to deliver a decisive blow against the government by winning the very symbolic regional elections in the leftist stronghold Emilia-Romagna did not materialize, as the election result came in late last night. Experts had forecasted that the coalition government would likely crumble following a defeat in Emilia-Romagna. With 98% of the ballots counted, incumbent Democratic Party governor Stefano Bonaccini had won 51.4% of the vote, compared to 43.7% for the candidate backed by the League and its allies. The left say that when people do not vote for them, voters do not understand anything. But for me, the people's vote is always correct. Whoever wins deserved to win. Salvini had campaigned relentlessly in the region since the start of the year, seeking a shock victory that he hoped would bring down the national government, which includes the PD and is riven by internal strife. If the data is confirmed, it is clear that one of the two ruling parties, and I am talking about the Five Star Movement, will disappear from the Emilia-Romagna region and almost from the Calabria region, which are two regions where the Five Star Movement was born and where it obtained more votes. It is clear that tomorrow in Rome something will change. Salvini's rightist bloc did secure a resounding victory in a separate regional election on Sunday in the underdeveloped southern zone of Italy, Calabria. But while the PD dodged disaster, its coalition partner, the anti-establishment Five Star Movement, won just 3.5% of the vote in Emilia-Romagna and little more than 7% in Calabria, meaning that it's unclear how much longer the party will want to remain to act as one of the two legs of the coalition government. That is all for tonight. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for Poland Daily Business. Good night.
I'm Aleksandra Zarzycka and welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Let's take a look at the forecast for tonight. Temperature will grow up a little. Only in Lublin and Rzeszów we will see temperature below zero. In the rest of the country, we might expect 1 degree. Rainfall will appear over Zielona Góra and Poznań. In most regions, sky will be overcast. Pressure will be low. Let's take a look at the forecast for tomorrow. Temperature will increase to 7 degrees on the west. The minimum temperature will be 4 in Katowice, Białystok and Rzeszów. Rainfalls will occur across Poland except eastern part of country. There we will see loads of sunlight and a lot of brighten. Let's check the weather for the next days. On Wednesday, temperature will range from 2 to 5 degrees. Little snowfall will appear in the whole country. Tuesday will bring us more snowfall with rain. On Friday, weather will improve, sky will be clear up. Little snowfall will appear in central Poland. Snow with rain will be around Rzeszów. Thank you for watching and see you soon.
Poland Daily Business Edition. Our guest tonight is Artur Wróblewski of Lazarski University. Sir, welcome to the show.
Hello, good afternoon.
We are just after the Davos World Economic Forum. This was the 50th edition of this event when all these jetpacks from the world arrived and met. Poland this year had a special house rented, Polish house, Polish meeting place. Why a country such as Poland sends big delegations, spends some money to be on this elitist forum?
For prestige reasons and for reputation, to build its reputation as an important player and important partner in business in the world. That's why we are doing this and spending money. We should stress also that all those famous businessmen and political leaders arrived to Davos clusters polluting the air. And added to this pollution and CO2 emissions, and at the same time they went there to discuss one of the main topics, how to fight the climate change and how to protect and save environment. So there is a lot of cynicism and a lot of hypocrisy about these meetings, because those meetings in Davos held from 1971, it started as a business, as a management forum, is about concern, care, about how to help poor people, how to protect environment, but at the same time...
And by the way, this caviar is quite worse, quite little bit less exclusive than the one that was a year ago.
Exactly. And nothing good comes out of those meetings, except that this is a place for networking and socializing, dedicated for important people. Of course, let's not exaggerate. In the past, there were some meetings in Davos which actually created a forum, a place for important meetings like that between Yasser Arafat and Prime Minister Rabin. It was in 1994 or 1993. There was a meeting, it helped to push for this peace process between the Palestinians and the Israelis. In 1992, we had a meeting between the president of South Africa, de Klerk, and Nelson Mandela.
And this year we have a meeting with Greta Thunberg, the girl who should have been at her school rather than lecturing the world leaders about anything.
And spending time vacationing, because she's on a permanent vacation.
I wonder if she went there by bike?
No, she went neither by bike nor on foot. She just arrived by the car. And actually she's a travel frequent traveler, so she's adding to the CO2 pollution. I want to remind you that 1 week ago she was in Poland and she went even to Bełchatów, Polish big power factory, but she was not allowed to enter it. But actually she praised later on, I think in Davos, Polish people during her speech, Polish coal miners.
Who apparently understand better the climate change
exactly.
and the need of their being laid off in case of climate.
She told the audience that she talked to them, and Polish coal miners are absolutely aware of climate change. But I want to say that this is one of the criticism, one of the charges against this Davos meeting, that there's a kind of psychology or a kind of approach which actually, instead of solving problems, is trying to push solving those problems on consumers, for example. We should be green consumers. We should walk instead of using cars. We shouldn't eat meat. We should use bicycles. But at the same time, those big companies, like Volkswagen, for example, they are cheating on emissions. You remember the famous scandal in the United States where it was disclosed in the United States, because Americans are very, they don't have fear of those companies in Europe.
On the positive side of this, Donald Trump withdrew United States from the Paris Agreement that requires United States to cut the emission, reduce the productivity and
create
industry.
A global emission trading system.
But on the other hand, the United States said that they will join this billion or trillion tree initiative. That means if we plant additional 1 trillion of trees across the globe, those trees, just by growing, will suck most of the CO2 that is produced by our industry. And that seems plausible. That seems sensible.
Yes, we can calculate how much the trees can catch of CO2 and other gas emissions contributing to climate change or global warming, and we can find a balance between industrialization, industry or revolution for zero development, and protecting our climate. But first of all, we have to speak truth, and we cannot cheat on this. Look, Europeans, Germans are very progressive. They are promoting ideology of green development. But at the same time, it was disclosed by the United States, they were cheating on emissions in Volkswagen cars. So this is hypocrisy. They are just in avant-garde, saying at least so, of green revolution, of just transition, climate, green transition, this solidarity, transformation, energy fund. But at the same time, let's remember that we have in Europe 10 highly polluting, highly emitting power plants. 7 of those 10 are located where? In Germany. And 2 of them are located in Poland.
Greta Thunberg went to Poland to single out our emission, our production.
And at the same time, in Germany, they cut trees in Hambach forest. It's a very old forest in Germany, and they are cutting trees. They destroyed old church and 2 villages in order to open land for
another lignite.
Exactly, place to mine. So we have to speak about this, because we are not those bad boys in Poland who are polluting. Germans are actually polluting more, but they sell the story about green revolution and about EU climate policy, transformation funds. This is kind of ideology they are
This is obviously
promoting.
a BS, but we are living in the situation when more and more people in the world want to live in a better condition. Why African family, mother, father, their 5 children cannot have washing machine, why they cannot have car, why they cannot have Wi-Fi in their house, why they cannot have electric power, clothes, and so on, and so on. This all requires energy, and by this suicidal policy, we are denying them this right?
This is a very legitimate question. Let's remember also that such companies as Tesla or Volkswagen are promoting electrical cars. But electrical cars need cobalt, for example. Cobalt is mined in Democratic Republic of Congo. And they don't pay good money, good salary to those poor African children who are very often mining this cobalt. They are buying it, not paying enough money, and building green cars, destroying Africa at the same time. It's hypocrisy.
It is lots of hypocrisy in Davos, but the caviar is always very good.
And champagne.
Which says Artur Włodarski of Lazarski University. Sir, thank you very much for this conversation. And that was it for Poland Daily Business.
Welcome back to Poland Daily Weather. Let's take a look at the forecast for tomorrow. Temperature will increase to 7 degrees on the west. The minimum temperature will be 4 in Katowice, Białystok and Rzeszów. Rainfalls will occur across Poland except eastern part of our country. There we will see lots of sunlight and a lot of brighten. Now let's check the weather for Europe. In the Balkans, temperature will range from 6 to 16 degrees in Athens, and there snowfall will appear. Temperature will little rise in Scandinavia to 5 degrees in Oslo and 4 in Helsinki. In British Islands, we might expect a lot of sunlight. There, the temperature will range from 5 to 6 degrees in London. Heavy rain will occur in Lisbon, but it will be warm there, 16 degrees. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Good day, everyone. My name is Maria Kądzielska, and you are watching Poland Daily Culture. We are about to commemorate the 75th anniversary of liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau camp. But Polish President Andrzej Duda is not going to Israel for the commemorations. Why is that? Johnny Daniels, the head of From the Depths Foundation, is the one who revealed all the details of big international politics. Johnny, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Johnny, in these moments of disinformation, especially about Holocaust, and the situation when Polish president has no right to speak during the anniversary of the 75th anniversary of the liberation of German Nazi camp Auschwitz-Birkenau, what we as Poles, with our government as well, can do to be more effective in international media and international platforms as well, to just show our voice and to speak for truth?
Well, I think once again, I think that, you know, at the end of the day, this anniversary that's taking place in Yad Vashem in Israel it's not the actual anniversary of the liberation. The actual anniversary of the liberation is going to be on the 27th of January. It's going to take place in Auschwitz-Birkenau. The President of Poland will be speaking, and many international delegates will be there as well. Poland did the right thing by boycotting this, and that message was sent very clearly around the world. It is a major international news topic. Everybody's written about it and spoken about it. And Poland's stance, and I think there's a unified response from Poles as well. Like, I've not spoken to anybody in Poland that disagrees with the president's decision. Now, unfortunately, there are media outlets and politicians who will try and attack anything the president does just for the sake of attacking the president. But at the end of the day, everybody understands and agrees that he's done the right thing. And I think just keeping on the line of the truth, you know, we've seen this issue in the past, and we'll see it in the future as well, where people truly do not understand what Poland itself faced during the Second World War. People don't understand that the majority of Warszawa was destroyed. People don't understand that that millions of Polish citizens, Polish Jews, but also ethnic Poles were killed as well. And I think without Poland telling her own story, no one else is going to tell the story for her. So I think, and I know that Poland needs to be a little bit more proactive in terms of educating the international community as to what Poland went through and giving the opportunity for people to understand. You know, I've been fortunate enough to bring many groups here to Poland. And obviously, as a Jewish person with a Jewish foundation, The sites are crucial for me to show in terms of my heritage. But also we take the journalists and politicians or whoever it may be to understand the different parts of the history as well. We'll visit the Museum of the Warsaw Uprising. Every single time I've taken groups there, they're shocked. Every time there are people who had no idea that there was an uprising of Warsaw. They'd heard of the Warsaw Ghetto uprising, but they didn't know about the uprising of 1944.
Yes, and so that's why then they know why Warsaw was destroyed.
Correct, and so without that explanation, and without Poland being more proactive in telling her story, we can't expect other people to tell it for us. The Russians are experts at pushing their narrative, and it's only going to get worse. And we need to fight that, and the best way to fight lies is quite simply by telling the truth.
As often and as openly as we can. For example, that's what we're doing right now. Explain for us also why just right now also the state of Israel is giving so much credit to Russia. What is so special about this situation that you're not pushing Russia more? Why are they right now giving them such a wide space of a little bit of freedom of doing what they want in international politics?
Look, Israel isn't in a position to fight Russia. And Israel definitely will not fight Russia. Unfortunately, when it comes to an issue like this, it's very, very clear, right? So from the state of Israel, again, I don't know how the decisions were made or how anything happened behind the scenes, but one could only imagine that, you know, the Israeli government sitting in a room, just say, and they have this problem that they face now, which is historical truth and a decent relationship with Poland based on historical truth, or Russia. But Russia isn't just Russia. It's, again, safety and security of the state of Israel. It's all the northern borders. It's everything connected to the Middle East and to the Arab world, where Russia's incredibly important. It's Israeli citizens being held in Russian jails, right? Russia is a superpower today, and a power that is incredibly important in Israel and the region, which is why Israel is remarkably careful in terms of how it deals with Russia, and which is also, once again, why I'm 100% certain that the Israeli government were backed into a corner right now by Yad Vashem. I know how it works. Moshe Kantor's organization came to Yad Vashem, said, let's do something together. We'll pay for it. We'll fund it. We'll invite all the world leaders. We'll get all the press. We'll do it a few days before the ceremony in Auschwitz-Birkenau, because from a media perspective, we're going to grab all the attention. Yes. Yad Vashem said, cool, why not? Perfect. We'll have a great stage. We can talk. You know, that they've got people coming from all around the world. Prince Charles is coming from the United Kingdom. 45 world leaders. Yes. We'll do something extraordinary. For Yad Vashem, this is remarkable. They're an institution. They need to raise money. They've been offered funds. Fantastic. Then the Russian games start. And at that point, when the decision is made, the ridiculous decision not to allow President Duda to speak, by that point, what does Yad Vashem and Israel do? Once again, they have this decision. A relationship with Poland and historical truth, which is incredibly important, or safety and security. Unfortunately, they had to choose the safety and security, but, you know, it is inexcusable at all points, because this situation should never be allowed to happen. You know, even a simple person like me, with a small foundation, an individual who speaks just on behalf of myself and my family, even I was able to foresee this, and I've been speaking about this for months. Even I saw this coming. How all of these people missed it, I have no idea.
Yeah, sounds a little bit ridiculous. And also, our government and all media platforms should highlight it and make it as clear as possible for everyone and to understand, especially on English platforms like this.
Correct.
That what's happening right now and this kind of way to manipulate Poland out of one of the most important issues of our recent history. Because, of course, Auschwitz-Birkenau as a German Nazi death camp involved in Polish history, and there were a lot of Poles who died there as well as part of our history and also the history we share with Jews. So that's why it's extremely important for us also to have a voice, especially at such events. Let's imagine, Johnny, you are a part of our Polish government, and and you have a voice. Also, you can make decisions about how the commemoration in Auschwitz itself will look like. How would you do them?
Well, first of all, thankfully, I'm not a politician, and I have no interest in ever being one. But I was. 6 years ago, I did, along with my foundation, partnered with Auschwitz-Birkenau, partnered with the Knesset, and we did create a commemoration there. And I think that there are ways to do it that really highlight things. I think, first of all, honestly, I don't think any politician should speak in Auschwitz. None. I don't think the Polish president, I don't think the Israeli president, I don't think anybody. Auschwitz-Birkenau is sacred. It's sacred for humanity, it's sacred for Jews, it's sacred for Poles, it's sacred for the Romani community, it's sacred for humanity. My personal opinion, the only people speaking in Auschwitz-Birkenau should be survivors. People who can give testimony. Politicians are human beings, they make very many mistakes, and to be honest, all they are exactly the same as you and I, just they have bigger egos and want to be elected to a position of power. That's the essence of a politician. Honestly, no politician should speak there. The only people who should be speaking, once again, are survivors, and they should be telling their stories. This is, if I was in a position of power and I had a decision to make, this is what I would do. I would make sure that all day survivors were telling their testimonies and people came and heard. Because once again, this is the 75th anniversary. Most of the survivors coming are not young people. I'm honored that I'm going to be there this year, along with Holocaust survivor Edward Mossberg, who's 94 years old. Please God, he'll be at the next commemoration, the next round commemoration, but at that point he'll be 99. The survivors are not getting younger. Whilst we have an opportunity to put them front and center, we must. And I think that this is maybe where it's going a little bit wrong, and maybe where we are, all of us, slightly responsible for turning this too much into a political issue. But honestly, once again, the fact that we're able to come and you're able to visit these sites and bring people, I think that this by far is the most important thing. So truly, again, Poland really does a remarkable job at the maintenance and upkeep and education connected to the sites connected to the Second World War and connected to Polish heritage and history. And this painful heritage and history, this dark history that we face as Poles and as Jews and as others. But the opportunity for all of us to join together in prayer and commemoration and in honor and respect of those murdered by the German Nazis and their collaborators is something that should be so sacred and shouldn't be touched by politics. And honestly, I think that the ceremony this year, from what I understand, will be held with the highest level of respect. I have no issues with how anything's run at Auschwitz-Birkenau. I believe that they're doing a very good job there. I believe the director's doing a very good job there. He has been personally responsible for making it very, very clear. 6 years ago, when I did my event, I didn't understand the internal politics. I didn't understand. And I brought the Knesset. And one of the things that maybe we should sing the national anthems at the end, right? We can sing the Polish national anthem, the Israeli national anthem, as a symbol of strength and as a symbol of continuity. And he said, no, Johnny, no anthems were sung, right? Because then we have the Russian anthem, then this anthem, and how do we decide? How don't we decide? It's apolitical. And I really give huge credit to the director of Auschwitz-Birkenau, to the Polish Ministry of Culture, and to Minister Gliński for this treatment of how these camps are being dealt with. And I think that they are being dealt with correctly, and I do think the ceremony will be held with the utmost decency and decorum. And it is still a massive shame that Yad Vashem decided to do this event just a few days before, partnering with people like Moshe Kantor and turning this into a political and media circus that it simply shouldn't be.
From now on, I'm absolutely sure that every one of you understand why all commemorations of Holocaust should be kept apolitical, especially those ones kept and held in the camps and those in Auschwitz. That's why it's important to keep the truth of history and to keep the politicians away, not to mess things up. And thank you for watching Poland Daily Culture.
Welcome back to Poland Daily History. I'm within the studio, my guest, Stefan Thompson, and we're talking about President Putin's attempt to blame Poland after the outbreak of the Second World War. Stefan, we've sort of seen this sort of Soviet horror, and of course it's probably worth saying that when we got to the Warsaw, when the Red Army finally rolled up in Warsaw, because we saw the ultimate final betrayal, well, probably not the final betrayal, but another betrayal of the failure to support the Warsaw Uprising, having broadcast, of course, to arise Poland, liberate your country, and then, rather to everybody's surprise, or maybe not surprise, but to everybody's horror at least, the Red Army sat there and did very little.
Yeah, that's right. On the 1st of August 1944, when the Warsaw Uprising breaks out, the Poles believe they'll be fighting for 3-4 days at most, and that they will be able to welcome, in a sense, I mean, they already knew at this point the realities of communism, but they believed they would be sort of welcoming the Red Army into a liberated, or in the process of being liberated, Warsaw. The opposite happened. The uprising breaks out, the fighting starts, and it goes on for 63 days whilst the Soviet offensive stops on the banks of the Vistula. And I mean, the inhabitants of Warsaw, just before the uprising, they could hear the Soviet artillery in the background. That's how close the Soviets were. And yes, they had been encouraging the Poles to rise up, and in fact, in a sense, both sides, both the Nazis and on the other hand the Soviets, were dealing with their Polish problem. The Soviets were basically letting Warsaw bleed out, letting the pesky resistance, people who probably would not be supportive of communism, bleed out and die in the streets of Warsaw. And they were also letting the city be destroyed. All these sort of bourgeois buildings were being wrecked and were making place for a future sort of ideal communist city. But that betrayal, I think, is particularly brutal and was particularly costly. It cost the lives of at least 200,000 Poles, mostly civilians, and it cost us our capital city a sort of immeasurable cultural losses. Warsaw was destroyed 85%.
And as we know, of course, that was one episode in what ultimately became the Germany was finally defeated, and. Unexpectedly and rather unfortunately, of course, this part of the world, Poland in particular, was subject to 40-odd years of communist regime. But it's worth saying, I think, that actually the fighting didn't stop then, and you're making a new film about the so-called cursed soldiers, these characters who kept fighting for Poland well into the 1950s.
I am indeed. Patrick Ney, the other sort of British filmmaker who works here, and I have teamed up. We've started a fundraiser, and it's going quite well. And we want to make a film documenting the post-war period, 1944 to 1956. It's not just about the cursed soldiers who would go on to fight. Some of these units would last until 56. The very last of these soldiers, Lalush, was killed finally in 1963, died with a gun in his hands. But it's also about the Red Terror, it's about the torture cells of the NKVD, it's about Rakowiecka, it's about the mass graves in Łączka, and it's about the unleashing of this terror directly after the Second World War by the Soviets, by Polish communists. And this is this film we're making. We're making it in English. We're very excited to tell this story. It's a story that hasn't been told. And this incredible, on one hand, the incredible courage of the men and women who fought on, who realized in 1943, 44, 45, as the Soviet advance was moving through Poland, that they weren't going to get freedom, and they were desperate for this free and independent country. But it's also about what the civilians had to endure, what Poland had to endure, and about basically the very nature of communism and of that ideology. And it's an ideology that's broadly misunderstood. It's an ideology that is often misrepresented still to this day, and we would like to set the record straight and tell this story. And I think it's an important story because other stories, such as, for example, everyone knows that the story of the Japanese soldiers who fought on well into the 70s.
Well into the 70s,
the sort of anecdote, it's the sort of fun fact that everyone knows, yet much closer to home here in Poland, in the very heart of Europe. We've got soldiers hiding in forests till 1956, 1963 in the case of a few sort of odd odd soldiers here and there, but there were active partisan units until 1956 engaging in regular combat with the communist occupier.
Well, that's a story definitely worth telling. And you've made a number of films. Of course, the film I just watched was the film where you talk about Putin, and that's actually very good.
Thank you.
With the video and
the scope here is much bigger. I mean, here we really want to sort of go full out and really tell this story.
Exactly. So anyway, look, Stefan, thank you very much indeed for joining us in the studio. It's been fascinating. You must come back. We must talk about more of this. There's always so much to say, and so little time in which to say it. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed these episodes as much as I have talking to Stefan. And of course, you know, if you want to know more about Polish history in English, come to Poland Daily History. Look at Stefan's films on YouTube. But for goodness sake, don't believe a word Mr. Putin tells you. Thank you for watching.
The beauty of Poland in winter is not to be missed. Winter sports like skiing are mostly centered on the mountain ranges in the southern part of Poland. But there's plenty of ice skating too. All the major cities have ice skating rinks, and the usual chilly winter means that ice skating on lakes, or even sometimes rivers and streams, is possible. Winter in Poland also means long walks in the forest, followed by warm fires and cozy atmospheres indoors, with a special beverage of your choice. It's a good time to spend with your friends. Wintertime in Poland is also good for tourism because there are a lot less people around. Hotel accommodation is easier to be had, and prices are generally lower. So join us for this special edition of Poland Daily Travel in the studio, where we're talking about things to do in Poland in the winter, with my guest, Nicholas Richardson. No relation, as usual. Poland Daily Travel, we're here for you. Find us on Facebook at Poland Daily Travel or Poland Daily Live. That's Poland Daily Live on YouTube. And if you're not too busy, please subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. I'm Will Richardson, and now on with the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another stirring 2020 version of There's a Will. This is a special edition, also combining with Poland Daily Travel. It's my travel show that some of you may have seen. My mother likes it. At least she says she does. And joining me in the studio will be Nicholas Richardson.
Hi, Will.
You're looking resplendent. Did you have a good holiday?
Not too bad. I went to England for Christmas.
You went to England?
It was very nice to see my father. And
how are things in old Blighty?
Well, everybody seems jolly happy, actually.
Yeah, they were good?
It seemed fine, yeah.
Anything to report? Was Santa Claus good to you? What happened?
Santa Claus hasn't been good to me for a number of years, of course.
No, I know.
No, but we had a very nice Christmas.
Yeah, I just got that big thing of switches and some coal.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly, I told Santa Claus, I said, stop bringing me coal. It's bad for the environment.
Yeah. Well...
he never listens. He's a jolly fellow.
No, my father in the house has real fire, so we burnt a lot of coal, you'll be pleased to know.
You burned a lot of coal? Okay, I'm very pleased to know. I should have joined you with my bag.
Exactly. No, it's very nice in the winter in England.
They keep piling up. I don't have any... I can't... In my tent down by the river, I can't burn...
No, well, you don't want to set the canvas on fire, do you?
No, not really.
You'd be tentless.
I'd be tentless, yeah. Then I'd have to fork out and get a new one. I'm not going to do that.
Well, maybe the viewers will take pity and send you a tent.
Send your... I'm collecting for my tent that I haven't burned down yet, but I will soon. Please send your dollars to care of this show. What's that place called? Under the
Arches.
No, that's the next place to go. Never mind. Forget what I said, folks. Yeah. Okay.
That'd be best.
We're going to talk about winter in Poland.
Yes.
Not just winter, because it's not a weather report.
No.
We're going to talk about things to do in the winter in Poland.
Well, I think this winter, well, you actually could probably go sunbathing because it's remarkably warm.
Yeah,
for
I've
winter.
never seen it like this.
It is frighteningly warm. In fact, there's no snow.
There's no. There's been
yesterday was like, or the day before yesterday, rather, was like a spring day.
Yeah.
And it was probably as warm here as it is in the seaside in summer. So
yeah, it was. I've seen days in July
that are colder
that were 11 degrees.
I know. It really is remarkable.
In Poland, especially on the Baltic.
In all the years I've been in Poland, and in Warsaw in particular, the snow is less and less each winter.
It's less and less.
And it's noticeable, and that's in human terms, that's a very short time.
There's definitely some warming going on.
There's something, the climate, or the weather at least.
Whether it's a short trough or it really is the long thing, we don't know. We're not scientists.
Well,
something's going on.
I remember at school being told we had to prepare ourselves for the next ice age. Because if you speak to scientists, global warming and the next ice age are in actual fact not incompatible. Because with global warming, you affect the Atlantic conveyor, so you actually affect the warm currents coming to northwestern Europe. So in actual fact...
Scott, I didn't know you were a meteorologist.
Well, I'm not a meteorologist.
You
but
wear
I mean,
a lot of caps.
I know, but there's such a lot of... You read such a lot about how the world's about to end. I mean, it's actually quite hard to find...
The world's not going to end.
I know that. But
the planet's not going anywhere.
But
we are.
We might, and the insects will take over.
Yeah,
but there's so much written, and there's so much in the media about this stuff, and yet you often think, well, a lot of it seems to be pushing a particular agenda rather than just trying to give us the objective science and then let us make some conclusions. That, I think, is the confusing thing. Everybody has a slight agenda. And really what you need to know is, or would like to try and find out, is what really is happening. And then you can draw some conclusions.
Yeah, but it's too politicized. I mean, obviously something's going on. How much we affect it, we still don't know, because the weather is just too big for us. We can't control it, let alone, we can't understand it,
There's
let
a certain
alone
arrogance
control
and suggest that we can actually control these things. I mean,
yeah, it's ridiculous.
And you look at all this pollution, which
we
is
can't
obviously
even
bad.
get along
but,
together.
A couple of volcanic eruptions put so much into the atmosphere in terms of dust and dirt and its effect on weather that really, you and I, you're using one carrier bag less.
I know. This is what I was thinking of, all these, and sunbursts and all these kind of things.
I mean,
much
it'd
more
be
effective.
good to try to find out exactly how it really affects. And so you actually then make some sensible conclusions based on proper objective data. That would be my wish.
Well, that's I agree. The weather, and we have to talk about it because it is winter in Poland. You expect a lot of winter sports, but I can tell you, I haven't been here every winter, but over the last decade, I've been here a lot.
Over the last 20 years, I have been in Warsaw.
You have been, okay.
And this is definitely the warmest.
It's definitely the warmest.
And so far, we've seen no snow in Warsaw. And we're into halfway through January. Now, I remember my first winter in Warsaw, 20-odd years ago, and the snow arrived in October and sort of hung around till March, more or less.
Yeah.
And then the sun arrived in April and hung around till October.
Yeah.
And the climate was very dry, as you'd expect from a continental climate in the summer. Now, Warsaw in the summer is a lot more humid than it used to be.
It's pretty humid, isn't it?
So these are changes in my short time. And if that's a change...
It was very hot and dusty in Warsaw.
Yes, but it was hot.
It's not anymore.
Great heat is okay if it's dry heat. It's the humidity that makes you feel more uncomfortable.
I know.
And similarly in the winter,
I've been in the desert more than once.
And similarly in the winter, if it's very cold, it's actually not uncomfortable, it's cold. If it's minus 20, it's fine. But if it's minus 3 or 4 and damp, that really is chilly. And so something has changed, even in Warsaw.
I think so, yeah. And I can say even the sounding a bit like a weather report, but in the park, I live, right next to a park. That's right. And it's usually from January through February, and there's snow.
Yeah, exactly.
On the ground the whole time until March, generally, and not a sausage. I haven't seen a snow flurry. And last year, I wanted to say, when we started Poland Daily Travel a year ago, a little more than a year ago, and you were on some of those early adventures, it was snowing every time we went out.
I remember. Yeah, exactly.
So every time we went out,
something has definitely changed.
Yeah.
So the first thing you can do in winter in Poland is see the changing weather.
Yeah, but from one year to another, there can be an extraordinarily
but this has
warm year.
But in my experience, this has been a gradual trend.
It's a gradual trend.
Ever less snow in winter in Warsaw.
So now you can come to Poland and have summer and winter
Exactly.
Well, not summer, but spring anyway.
Well, it's only spring, which of course
Spring
will
or
confuse all the plants. They'll start flowering, and then no doubt will be.
But it's happening in the States too.
Yeah, it happens in England as well.
My mother was telling me that the daffodils were coming out in Asheville, North Carolina, which is in the mountains.
Yeah.
Well, or mountains, as you say in England.
Mountains.
You just say mountains?
No, we say mountains.
You like to pronounce everything in England. Mountains.
Mountains.
No, that sounded like Alfred Hitchcock or something. You know?
Yes.
Yeah, and what a name. Think about it. At any rate,
you have a weird way of thinking.
No, well, watch too much cinema, obviously.
Yes, you do.
No, if you had to name 5 places, only 5 places.
Only 5. Yes.
If you could only name 5 places to go in the winter in Poland, what would be your short list?
Well, I think Zakopane, obviously, is a classic one.
Because it begins with a Z, and that's the last letter of the alphabet.
I've been awkward. I'm working backwards.
You're working backwards.
No, but that is, I think, is the winter.
Yeah.
And also summer places. Or it is the winter town that people immediately think of when they think of Poland in the winter.
Yeah. So Zakopane.
Zakopane.
Let's hold with that. Let's hold with that. All right, everybody. Come back for the next after this. Come back, and we will talk about Z-Town, Zakopane, one of Poland's fantastic winter destinations.